My first center fire rifle was a Colt AR-15 A2 Sporter 2. I think I may have dated myself a little bit there, but I still have that rifle as well. I tricked my mother into buying it for me. I convinced her it was a 22 rifle.
I came to SHOT Show 2016 in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I asked people this question.
Tell me about your first knife or gun or both.
My first gun that actually shot projectiles was a little lever-action Daisy BB gun.
First gun was a Daisy BB gun.
Like when I think about my love for guns, it started when I was 5 years old. I went to my mom's uncle's farm in Oklahoma, and he taught me to shoot cans with a Daisy.
That I started shooting with when I was about 5, and I went on. My next gun after that was another Daisy pellet gun, and I got involved in 4-H shooting sports competitions, and I did that for a lot of years. And finally I retired out of that and started progressing my shooting skills towards the hunting sport.
I had a blast with it as a kid, and then upgraded to some shotguns and just going out shooting, mostly birds, but having a lot of fun doing that.
He bought me for Christmas a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun, and that was my first gun of any kind. And you know, I've got all of this spinning out of that. That's why I think it's ridiculous when none of the gun people that I hang out with do, but some gun people make fun of airsoft or air guns or things like that because they're not real firearms. Forget that. That's like the start for so many people, and then they're on that slippery slope, and then they end up getting into more and more stuff and into complete firearms. So I have great memories. I still have that Daisy Red Ryder BB gun at my house.
A little single shot Marlin shotgun.
First gun that I can remember was an H&R 12 gauge shotgun.
The gun was a 410 22 over and under.
And that actually did me a lot of good because it taught me how to make that shot count. I had one shot, I normally wasn't going to get another shot, so that was my first shot.
I think I got it when I was about 12 years old underneath the Christmas tree, and of course it was winter time, so it didn't take me long to forego the Christmas festivities and hit the woods.
I used it for hunting small game with my uncle, who filled the void as of a really avid outdoorsman when I was younger, up into my teen years.
When my first gun, I was 10 years old, and my granddad, you know, rest his soul, and me a 410 shotgun, you know, double barrel 410, and that was pretty fantastic to get when you're 10 years old, so that stands out.
And my first gun was a gun that I got from my grandfather. It was a 410 shotgun, bolt action.
First gun was a 410 single shot shotgun that I loved dearly and carried pretty regularly out hiking around the mountains.
In Taiwan, firearms are not permitted.
When I first came to the United States, and because it's harder to buy guns in New Zealand than it is here.
So I didn't own any firearm until I moved to the US. My first firearm is a Tabor.
I worked the summer, saved up enough to pay for half of the gun. My mother paid for the other half when I was 14, and I got my first 30-30 lever action Marlin rifle.
Tell me about your first knife or gun or both.
My first gun I got when I was 8 years old. It was a Ruger 1022.
Well, I've already mentioned that my first outdoor experience was really shooting a 1022 rifle, so that rifle actually I still have.
But the one that was most memorable was the Ruger 1022, which I have shown on camera before.
The very first firearm that I ever got was a Ruger 1022.
And I was super excited and loved it. Still have the gun to this day, and I still love shooting it. So
I will occasionally break it out and show it in videos. It sits in the back of the safe. It's one of those guns you never get rid of. My first center fire rifle was a Colt AR-15 A2 Sporter 2. I think I may have dated myself a little bit there, but I still have that rifle as well. I tricked my mother into buying it for me. I convinced her it was a 22 rifle, and she bought it for me as a birthday present. I was still in high school, and again, I'll never get rid of that rifle, and one of these days I'll have to break it out in video and show it to you guys. But yeah, I think that 1022 is the gun that just started it all for me.
I was mowing the lawn back in Virginia years ago, and I'd been working my butt off. I had an allowance back in the day. I'd been saving it up. I had
probably like $50, which back in the 70s was a lot of money. And my dad said, hey, great job on the lawn. Let's go for a ride. We're gonna get a bite to eat. And he took me to Best Products department store in Hampton, Virginia, and he bought my Ruger 1022 with me right then and there. And I was beside myself. I was so happy. And on the side of the barrel, it was stamped made in the year 1976. And I just loved it. That was my first and most favorite gun.
Actually, there was a Red Ryder BB gun in there, but I was gaming the pigeons on the barn rooftop, so he finally decided he needed like actual like gunpowder behind projectiles. And I used to get in trouble because I would hunt the birds off the bird feeder as a child, and I like broke a window or two with a bouncing pellet. So they thought my old man's rationale is don't take the kids' guns away, just get him something more powerful so it'll go through the bird feeder instead of bounce off of the bird feeder. And thanks, Dad, you're awesome.
First gun, Glock 26, Gen 3.
My first gun is actually a Kel-Tec Sub 2000.
My first gun was a 22 Remington, semi-automatic.
My first gun was a SKS. I bought a Taurus Millennium Pro.
My first gun, and I still have that gun, is a 3030 Model 94 lever action that I used to deer hunt with my dad and my grandfather with.
My Remington 700 308, and I love it because it's a sub MOA rifle without being over $1,000.
Henry 22 lever action rifle, which I thought was one of the coolest things in the world as a young man.
The first rifle I remember getting when I was a kid was a Winchester Model 121 single shot youth rifle. Has like a manual safety, you have to pop down every time you fire a shot. And I can't tell you how many of the neighborhood squirrels met their death from that little rifle. And it's one of my fondest memories, and even to this day, I'm a big collector of vintage 22 rifles made by Winchester. I've got an old Model 04 that was made around the turn of the century, a couple of old Flaubert inspired Winchesters. I've got a couple of gallery guns, used to belong to my grandpa. So this day I'm a big fan of vintage Winchesters.
It's a gun I love, and it came to me as an inheritance from a great uncle. It's a 1959 Savage 300 lever action, and I love that gun.
It was a 270 Savage that my dad bought me when I graduated my hunter safety.
Well, the first gun I had, I was 11 years old, and at that time I guess I was a little naive. I still believed in Santa Claus, but I wanted a Savage shotgun for Christmas, and I was out at a store called Grandpa's, which is now closed, but that's when I was a kid. Saw my dad up front toting that gun, toting it out the truck to hide it from me so I couldn't sit, and a little light went on in my head. I realized at that time that it wasn't Santa Claus, it was Dad, and that was even better.
My dad used to get ready to deer hunt late October every year, and he had this big blade hunting knife. It was a Soligan Germany kind of hunting knife, but it had a stag handle on it, and it had like a silver lion's head